It's the first podcast of 2018, January 4th. And Happy New Year. Am I loud? Am I loud enough? All right. Happy New Year. Um, you know, um, I'm having a lot of trouble starting this, but you know, it's as we begin this new year, 8 teams. Wait, no, not 8 teams. 12 teams, if I'm not mistaken, remain in the National Football League. 2 teams remain in college football. One more college game. Oh my God, my sister's loud. We have the playoff championship, college football national championship, on Monday. NFL playoffs begin Saturday. And the football season is winding down. The regular season's over. It's going to be a next fun month of playoff football in the National Football League, and it's going to be a fun night to watch 2 power SEC teams battle for the national championship. And I predicted that would be. Hold on a second. Sorry, she's a pain in the ass. Anyway, I predicted that would be the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia. That was a matchup that that a lot of people really wanted to see. But in the SEC championship game in Atlanta, instead, Auburn knocked off Alabama last game of the season. Alabama ends up losing the SEC West. Georgia wins the SEC East. Auburn wins the SEC West. They play in the SEC championship. We all know what happened there. But we got the matchup that we wanted in this national championship. I think I predicted it after a thrilling Rose Bowl, a thrilling New Year's Day of bowl games, really. The Rose Bowl. I mean, last year the Rose Bowl. It was a little intriguing. I mean, yeah, an up and coming Penn State team after what they went through. With the whole Sandusky thing coming in last year, having a great year. Saquon Barkley broke out last year. It was just they just had a very good football team. And they were playing a USC team with Sam Darnold, top quarterback prospect, who yesterday declared for the draft. And that was a really cool Rose Bowl game to watch. Monday night just it beat it. Beat that game. I thought nothing would beat that Rose Bowl from last year, but it turns out it was just a typical Big 12 versus SEC. It's not typical, but Big 12 versus SEC. Heisman winner versus a pretty good defense. Georgia, Oklahoma, and that was a really fun game to flick on and watch. All the points after points after points, and it's really, as I watch this game, it's pathetic that the Big 12 doesn't play defense, but Georgia's defense was just getting torn apart, especially in the first half. They were getting torn apart by the Oklahoma offense, which really couldn't stop in the first half. He didn't stop scoring at all. It looked like it was going to be Oklahoma's game. And then I think, which was a very dumb decision and gave Georgia a little bit of momentum and let them hang around a little bit, was the squib kick at the end of the half, which set up the Blankenship 55-yard field goal, which really, gave Georgia so much momentum in that football game. And led them to come back, tie, play with Oklahoma a little bit, go to overtime. That the overtime, the first couple overtimes was, the first overtime was a defensive battle. Obviously, both teams forcing each other to kick field goals, and Oklahoma gets the ball back. Georgia stops them again. They block a field goal. Sony Michel goes in the end zone on the Georgia possession that followed it. So, and that's what wins the Rose Bowl and sends Georgia to play in their home state in a brand new stadium, which will probably be. I think that will probably be Georgia home game. But who knows? Bama usually attracts a lot of people, obviously, since they've been very good. And Georgia's Atlanta has been a familiar spot for the Tide. They opened that stadium this year, beating Florida State, and that was the game where Francois got hurt. So, it's going to be very interesting to watch on Monday night. And the bowl games, there was just a lot of headlines. Bama beat Clemson, really outmatched Clemson in that game. There was a couple, Clemson. It was a lot about momentum in these two games, and I think that was the common theme. Clemson had a little bit of momentum. They lost it. Bama takes over, and they kind of took control of that football game. So, that's where that game kind of was. That was the later game. That was after the Rose Bowl. And then there were some other New Year's Bowl games that I kind of want to make note of. UCF Auburn, and UCF has been in, they've been in the news a little bit because they declared themselves as national champions. And, they went 13-0. They played in a bad conference. They were held from the playoff due to the fact that they didn't have a good strength of schedule. They were in the American. So, they kind of declare themselves as national champions, and in their eyes, they're holding a parade down there and everything. I think it's a little ridiculous. You won a New Year's Six bowl game. You won a major bowl game in Atlanta again against Auburn, SEC West champions. But I knew UCF was going to win that game because Auburn didn't. Auburn lost on that field against Georgia in the SEC championship. And, I kind of feel like they are not a good team when they have a decent amount of competition against them away from Jordan Hare. They lost to Clemson. They lost to Georgia. Georgia beat them pretty good in the SEC championship game. And then they lose to UCF. So they're kind of not. I feel like they're not really the same team away from Jordan Hare. And that was probably one of the best home field advantages that a team could have this year in college football. They beat two top five teams in that stadium this season. One, I think, was Alabama number one in there. I don't know. I think they'd probably be two number one teams in that stadium. Unbelievable. My Notre Dame team against LSU, it was a great game to watch. It was the first half was a lot about, reminded me a lot of the Eagles game, which I will get into later, right after this. Notre Dame versus LSU. More that Geis for LSU had a very good game. The first half was a lot like the Eagles game. There was not a lot of scoring, a lot of good defense, except LSU just kept getting in the red zone. Didn't like the Eagles game. There's nothing really much in the red zone. I felt like I was cursed a little bit. The scoring was late in the first half when Justin Yoon kicked. Sorry. The scoring started when Justin Yoon kicked a 48-yard field goal to open the scoring. 46-yard field goal to open the scoring. And then the second half, LSU scored their opening possession, and it was kind of back and forth up until when Miles Boykin made that catch for Notre Dame to take over that game and give us the lead. And that was the final score, 21-17. Very good game. Michigan, South Carolina. Another game that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to go discuss something right here about the Michigan Wolverines. South Carolina ended up winning this game. Michigan looked like they were in the lead for a little bit in that game. But here's the deal. Sorry for all the distractions. Here's the deal. When Michigan first hired Jim Harbaugh, he was depicted to be this next coming of Jesus for them. I mean, it's just like, the guy is coming in from San Francisco. He took that team to a Super Bowl, had a chance to win the Super Bowl against the Ravens that year. The guy coached at Stanford. He was a good coach there. He was a very good recruiter. But Jim Harbaugh, I mean, you probably heard this before. He has not done anything. People still treat him in Ann Arbor like he is God. He has not done a single thing there. I mean, yes, you can say he has 2 10-win seasons. But in those 10-win seasons, he had 1 win against a rival, and that was Michigan State. In a game where it was a little too close, Michigan State had a bad season, and that was in 2016. His goal there was to take that team to new places and beat Ohio State, which is something that they haven't done in a while now. He's not beaten Ohio State. He has not won a big bowl game with them. I think the biggest bowl game that he won, well, I mean, obviously the only bowl game that he's won there was the Buffalo Wild Wings bowl against Florida, where he blew them out. So, all right, hold on a second. Now at CBS and Navage.com, you'll love that He-Knows feeling. Big Ten college basketball is on FX1. Oh my God, my sister keeps coming in and it's getting brutal. It's getting stupid now. Anyway, but that was his goal. I mean, he has not done anything there. So, so that's where that kind of is. So, yeah, man, I feel like the whole podcast is disrupted now because she fucking keeps coming in. Jesus Christ, she's a pain in the ass. All right. Am I squeaking in this? So, MC Eagles, what's up? How are you? Thanks for listening. Um, Speaking of this Eagles team, we're going to talk about them right now. I'm kind of off my college football soapbox. So it was a disgusting game, as we know, on Sunday. I mean, it was just a bad. Um, it was just not a good game to watch. Um, you know, I was just sitting there and I watched Foles have a very good first drive. I see Torrey Smith drop the ball, and I just throw my plate on the wall. That damn thing was right in his hands. Dropped the ball. I mean, the game was meaningless. I get that. And, I mean, I kind of felt that a little after my little incident after he dropped the ball. But after that possession, and the Eagles went 3 and out, I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. That one play kind of killed their momentum, as we know. And it was just like, that kind of set the tone for the game. I mean, the defense was playing really well. It was a boring game. And that was that. So, I mean, Sudfeld came in, and, as I was watching the game, I'm like, damn, this guy looks really good. Maybe that was because, Foles started shitting the bed. And, Sudfeld was doing things that were Carson Wentz-like. And maybe that's why I thought, he's a very good quarterback. And, he will win us these playoff games. And I was just texting my one friend. I'm like, they should start Sudfeld. I like to see how he does with the first team offense. This, that. He's a god. This and that. I didn't realize how dumb I sounded until 3 hours after the game when, I decided to flick on. I was just some days I just throw in highlight videos and I'm just like, okay. I just turn on these highlight videos from old Eagles games or old Notre Dame games, and just relive those good memories that I had. And I watched the 2013, some of the 2013 stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, look what Foles can do. I mean, he can take us down the field. He's not Carson Wentz, and I really sounded like a dumbass when I told my buddy that we should start Nate Sudfeld. I mean, Jesus. So, that was kind of that. I mean, Nate Sudfeld, he just looked like a rook. I mean, he just looked like he did have that one good scamper. He does have more velocity on his throws, but I mean, he's a third string quarterback, second string quarterback. Nick Foles, I mean, the thing is, he needs to adapt. The coaches need to make Nick Foles to come up with a game plan where Nick Foles can adapt easily to it and play well. The no huddle they were looking at this week. They're trying to draw up things that can really make and help Nick Foles and make him strive. They've already come out. They're going to say they're going to use Ajayi a lot. He Fly Eagles Fly TV. I forget his name. He made a very good point. He says that Nick Foles is going to be doing well. He's like Dak Prescott. He does well when he has a good running back behind them, and they have a good running game working. And that's something that I think the Eagles need to do. They cannot throw the ball 38 times in a football game. They can't. With a backup quarterback, they can't. Like in the Raiders game. Just come on. This is not you need to adjust your game plan. You need to adjust your scheme. You need to adjust, that so you can make this guy strive. Nick Foles had LaShawn McCoy. He had, they ran tempo. He had he had a couple good receivers in that 2013 season. And that's probably why the Eagles won the division and were a playoff team and almost won a playoff game. And people are going to try and bash Nick Foles and say that he lost that playoff game against the Saints, which he did, but he did his job. I mean, the Eagles were down 20-7 in that game. He got them back within a lead. Okay, our defense was horrible that year. Our defense was horrible, and they gave up. That defense lost that game for us. They let the Saints march down the field and kick the game-winning field goal when we had the lead, and Nick Foles did his job in that game to get us back in. I mean, come on. All right, this guy should have one playoff win. I can say, you could probably be like, okay, he's doing the shoulda, coulda, woulda thing. No, Nick Foles should have one playoff game. I think this is Nick Foles' redemption. I think this is Nick Foles' redemption tour right now. I think, if he wins this playoff game, what I mean by redemption, I think he's going to, Chip Kelly should not have gotten rid of him. And I think it's going to be kind of an in-your-face thing to Chip Kelly. I don't know. That didn't make any sense. But anyway, we'll see. I mean, he's going to get the chances are he's going to get the exact same matchup. The exact same network is going to broadcast that Eagles-Saints game as in the game in 2013. In 2013, it was an NBC game. It was at night. They were playing the Saints with Drew Brees. Saints, they had Darren Sproles. They had Mark Ingram. They had Jimmy Graham. Drew Brees, obviously. NBC. It was a game. It was a late game. The Eagles, it was at the Link. They were NFC East champions. I'm just listening to similarities between these games. Here, let me turn my TV down. Okay, so this divisional round game is going to be NBC 4:35, and if the Saints win, it's going to be almost the exact same situation, except with the two differences. Obviously, a couple differences. Obviously, a little bit of a different Eagles team, a better Eagles defense. It's a 4:35 game, and it's in the divisional round, not in the wild card round. So, trying to make a little bit of sense there. So I mean that's going to be the most likely scenario. We're going to end up with New Orleans. That's what I think. We'll see. But they are definitely not our best opponent. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, to be honest with you, that's probably the team that scares most Philly fans right now. Given the fact that they have so many weapons on that team, like I feel like if you shut down, if they're going to shut, if our defense is going to shut down Ingram, they're going to throw in Kamara. He's going to, it's just like they have a tool for everything in their toolbox. They can fix anything. That's what I kind of feel like with this New Orleans Saints team. So yeah. And to be honest with you, I do think we can probably beat the New Orleans Saints. It's going to come down to coaching. So, we'll see. We'll see where this whole thing goes. They're going to practice this week. Hopefully it could be a first start. I don't know. We'll see where this takes us, but, we'll kind of see where all this stuff goes. During this week, a couple of the coaches are, they're going to job interviews. Filippo and Schwartz. Schwartz is going to the, look at the Giants. I think Filippo is. I think he's going to Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to look over there. This is a guy that worked with Carson Wentz. Jim Schwartz knows his defense. It's just I don't want to see any of these guys go, but and to be honest with you, if I'm the Giants, I keep Spagnuolo. I really would, because he pretty much won you with that defense 11 games in 2016. That defense was so good that year. And he knows that team inside and out. He won he won a game with them this year. I think he's a good coach. I really do. I don't know why the Giants don't keep him. And they want a defensive mind. Yeah, they already have a defensive mind. I mean, you know, and I think, there's always discussion with the two Patriots coordinators getting head coaching jobs, and they're never going to move. They're they're more successful where they're at than what would happen if they were head coaches. They've always been in head coaching discussions for a while, for the last few years. I'm talking about Patricia and McDaniels. Um, so they're going to most likely stay where they're at. They're always common names, but I highly doubt they'll um, take a job. And then you can also see where all the other Belichick disciples, how they do, which is not very good. Belichick disciples really don't end well. Like Nick Saban disciples at Alabama when they go to coach other college teams. Kirby Smart. There's one. Lane Kiffin's going to be a pretty good coach. Excuse me. But if the Eagles have any, say in, I understand the ultimate goal for coaches is to become a head coach. If there's any way that you can keep these two guys in town, I keep Filippo until Carson Wentz knows what he's doing 100%. And I think he does know what he's doing. Obviously, he's had an MVP type season. But I kind of want to see him duplicate that next year before we let Filippo go. And Schwartz, he's crafted a pretty good defense. Obviously there's still some issues in the secondary. But I think the defensive line is the front is probably like the top two in football right now. I think they are a very good defensive front with Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jernigan, Long, all those guys. I think they're playing really good, and I think they're the most motivated group on the team. You have very good, you have leaders on that side of the ball. Malcolm Jenkins, Chris Long. Those guys are going to carry us in this playoffs this year, and that brings up another point. This defense, I think, will lead us into the playoffs this year. You look what happened with the Denver Broncos 2 years ago. It was clear that it was Peyton Manning's last year. He wasn't playing like Peyton Manning. They got him a Super Bowl because they had a great defense. Von Miller, Aqib Talib. The list goes on and on and on. The defense is going to carry us this season. It's pretty obvious in this postseason. We're playing at home. It's the noise, the crowd. It does more to the defense than anything else. Any other factor in that game. It does more to the home team defense. As we know, it's just going to feed this defense. That's why we beat Oakland. That's why we, they had a very good game against the Cowboys, and especially in the cold weather. So the defense is going to carry this team, as we know. And they have to feed off the crowd, and they have to show up. No performances like the Giants game. And yes, that does lead in some concern with the corners, the double moves. Sidney Jones. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. I want to see a little bit. I want to see Sidney Jones, but kind of stuck. And I mean, if I were a Cowboys fan right now, after watching that game and seeing their team get shut down by some second or third string defense, this would be pretty concerning. Yeah, I mean, that'd just be pretty concerning. So here's some for you guys. Eagles playoff tickets. They're sold out in less than a minute. When the 10 o'clock hour hit today, the playoff tickets kind of vanished. I saw an article. I mean, I was actually really, given the fact that, it was a snow day, I was thinking about going on and, maybe considering going. Put a lot of thought into it this past week, and, it's just like, too much money. I'd rather watch the game at home, spend some money on some other stuff. But, it wouldn't really made a difference. You really had no chance to get playoff tickets. I mean, they went in less than a minute. You look at the other teams with the games this weekend. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars took like an hour for them to sell, but they're probably all Bills fans are heading down there to watch that game. There's still some wild card tickets available for some of the other games. So, given the Eagles fan, I mean, we're ready for this game. I mean, it just shows you that the fans are ready for this game. Or it could be a spam. It could be some scalpers trying to get some tickets. Who knows? But that's on the Eagles site. Nothing goes sold out on StubHub or some of the other places. So you can still get playoff tickets. You're just gonna have to drop at least $200 to get some to get some seats. So I gotta plug in my charger. So all right, so the two games that are important to us this weekend, as we know, the Falcons and Rams, which will be played Saturday night if I'm not mistaken, and the Panthers Saints, which will be played Sunday. Based on what happens Saturday with the Falcons and the Rams, Sunday's Panthers Saints will decide who comes to this snowy city or not. So that will be, I think our best bet obviously is to play the Falcons. They're going. I mean, that'll be a nice one to get. Panthers, I mean, they're going to have a hard time. They got swept by the Saints. They're going to lose another game. So, I mean, to be honest with you guys, I think a team that has it worse than us is team right below us, Minnesota Vikings. They're going to play. They better not hope the Atlanta Falcons win. Or, I mean, they really better not hope. I mean, because, they're going to go play a Rams team. If that's the case, they're going to fire on all cylinders. Or no, they're going to play a Saints team that's going to, I mean, to be honest, I really think it's kind of a loss for them. I mean, if the Falcons lose, they're going to play the Rams, who's good, and then if the Falcons win, they're going to play a Saints team that's good. So I think they're going to have it harder than us. I really do. I mean, yes, they have a good defense. They have a really good defense. But I really think that, they're going to have a pretty hard time playing one of those teams. Excuse me. I mean, Case Keenum is, I mean, this is like, I think this is his first playoff game. And he's gonna try and do what he's done all year, I mean, it's gonna be a hard time. I think they really have it harder than us. And even if they come here and if us and them win, if it's a Eagles Vikings um NFC Championship, get your Super Bowl tickets. Get your Super Bowl tickets now. Yeah, get your Super Bowl tickets that week because the Vikings, they only put 16 points on the Packers in cold weather, and Lambeau is heated. So, they're gonna have their problems. I think they have it worse. I really don't think they're gonna play this. They're gonna be one of the first teams to play the Super Bowl in their own stadium. So, all right. So we will do the picks right now. I know the Sixers won last night. A lot of people want to talk about them. I mean, I really have no basketball insight. I mean, I really gotta start watching these games. I mean, I was preparing. I was doing my homework last night, seeing if there was going to be, wondering if we were going to have a snow day today, which we, thank God did. So I kind of procrastinated a little bit. Didn't get a chance to watch much of the game, but I mean, hey, I mean they won a basketball game, and I really like how Embiid, played last night for his team. So I'm very happy. So we're gonna do the picks. We'll do NFL playoff wild card, and then we'll do college football national championship. All right, so yeah, I mean we got some. I mean this is a good time to be a very good time to watch football. I mean obviously not as many games. It's always a good time to watch football. I mean it really is. Especially in the cold, especially it's nice. It's very nice. So we'll do the I'm trying to think. All right, we'll do the Saturday games. The very first game of the weekend, ESPN, and this could be John Gruden's last game in the booth. Titans versus the Chiefs. Titans beat Kansas City in Kansas City last year. They know how to win there. They do. Kansas City's hot. I mean, their backup quarterback played a great game last week. It's a winning culture over there. I mean, they got weapon. I mean, Alex Smith plays a shitty game. They're going to throw Mahomes in. So I'm going to pick Kansas City by a field goal. I mean, Tennessee did, they did have a little bit of push to get in the playoffs. But I got Kansas City. I mean, it's a tough place to win. I mean, Tennessee did win there last year, but I think Kansas City got this game. Next game, the late night game, which is a game that matters to the Eagles. Falcons Rams. Rams playing at home. They they play well there. Gurley, Goff going up against Ryan, Freeman, Julio. This is going to be a good game. I mean, this is going to be a pretty good game to watch. But I'm going to pick the Rams by a field goal. I think they'll, and I think they'll win by a field goal. Then we go to Sunday, Bills Jaguars. Bills without your LaShawn McCoy. It's going to be a pretty even stadium. But I'm going to pick the Jags winning a playoff game with that defense. So that's that. And then the 4:40 game, final game of the weekend, Panthers Saints. Building, they'll just completely wipe off the Panthers from their schedule. So Yeah, college football national championship. Alabama versus the Dogs. Dogs defense took a beating, but their offense put up 54, 55 points in that game. So Alabama played good defense, shutting down Kelly Bryant, a very good Clemson offense. That they've had a very good offensive players through the years with Dabo Swinney. This is a very hard game to pick, but I'm going to say the Georgia Bulldogs take home the national championship, beat Bama by a field goal in Atlanta in their own state, and happily ever after. So that's my national championship pick. And that is the podcast for today. Thanks for listening. And enjoy the games this weekend. Happy New Year. Enjoy the snow day. And that's that.